My uncle runs a horse farm. I grew up riding horses very much. I would ask my boyfriend to go horseback riding with me when I had time. I occasionally got hurt, but it didn't stop me from loving horseback riding. One weekend, my boyfriend asked me to go horseback riding with him. The ground became muddy because it had been raining for the previous few days. I rode my horse up the track and headed towards a jump. I had been on this jump hundreds of times in the past. I decided to complete a jump farther than I had ever done before. As I approached the jump, I sprinted as fast as I could. A voice told me that I had to slow down. I ignored the voice and sped up. This was not the first time I had heard this voice. This voice was very special to me. I was often abused by my father when I was a child. Whenever I was beaten, there was always a voice comforting me. When I was in trouble, I would hear this voice. Don't get me wrong, I'm not looking for sympathy here. This voice not only comforted me, but also warned me of impending danger. I haven't ever felt doubt, and I think everyone has this voice around them. Back to the story, as I said, I ignored the voice. I suddenly felt the horse's hooves slip and the horse lost control. I fell headfirst to the ground and lost consciousness. I was not wearing a helmet because I was confident in my skills, and now I see how foolish I was. My friend was right behind me, and he saw me fall, and he called emergency services. After a while, he saw me take a deep breath and slowly open my eyes. He told me later that the whole thing took about 5 minutes. I remember the moment my head fell to the ground and everything went black. Then I opened my eyes and stood up. To my shock, I saw myself lying on the ground, all twisted up. Then I heard that familiar voice that kept saying behind me, "Come on, we have to go." I turned around and I saw the man who had made the voice. I think it is more appropriate to describe him as an angel. This angel looked like a 6-year-old boy. I asked him, "Where are we going?" He said in an anxious tone, "Come on, we have to go now. The demons of hell are coming." Then he pointed to the distance. There was a dark spirit coming toward me. I had a feeling that he was sent by the devil to capture my soul. There was a dark cloud around him, and he was wearing a black robe. I could not see his face. I also sensed that he represented pain and evil. I looked at the angel floating above me, and he held out his hand for me to grasp him. He was wearing a long robe and a golden crown on his head. He began to fly upward. I looked down and saw my boyfriend and the frightened horse. As the angel and I flew upward, I saw the earth getting smaller and smaller. We went into outer space, going faster and faster until the earth disappeared. We passed many planets, going faster and faster, and the picture became more and more blurry. Finally, we came to a place. It was a cloudy place, and I felt so wonderful there. There was no heat or cold, no pain or discomfort, no hunger or thirst, no longing for anything. I had a feeling of love that this place was the most perfect place you could imagine. I believe this place is heaven. The angel said, "I have to go now. There are others waiting for him." This scared me because I felt alone in this strange place. I looked to my right and there were 2 people standing on a podium with a book on it. The book was very thick and the 2 men on the podium seemed to know me. One of them looked at me and asked, "Why are you here?" I looked up at him. In a trembling voice, I asked, "Are you saying I should go down there?" I felt like they were implying to me that hell was where I should go. During this whole experience, we didn't talk in words, it was a subconscious language. They both laughed and explained to me, "Now your time has not yet come." I felt very confused. Then they opened the book and I saw the names written all over it. They said, "Here is the list for today, your name is not here." Then he turned the book back many pages and said, "Here is your time." They pointed to my name. I told them, "I want to stay." They replied, "You have to go back. You are part of God's plan." I asked, "Why do I have to go back and how will you send me back?" They said, "We will take you to God and He will know what to do." They took me to a place. I saw God sitting on a very high place, and He was wearing a white robe. God held out His hands to me, lifted me up, and sat me down in front of Him. His hands were very strong. I slowly looked up at Him. He was very tall, and His hair and beard were white-gray. God put His hand on my head. He can feel all that I have done in my life. He could see the good and bad things I had done and could appreciate how I was really feeling at the time. He weighed my good and bad and said, "Yes, you are good." Then, He showed me a picture. In the photo, I was much more mature with a boy. I realized the boy was my son, and I was in a wheelchair with my son pushing me behind me. My spine had been broken in the accident, which meant I was paralyzed. I asked, "Where is the boy's father? Did he die?" He said, "He went to another place." Later, I got married to my current boyfriend and we had a son. When my son was 3.5 years old, we got divorced for emotional reasons. He left us and went to live in another city and never came back. Then God told me, "You can choose to stay, but I want you to go back." I asked, "What did you mean when you said I was part of your plan?" He told me about my mission on earth. He also told me, if I stay there, God will change the other events associated to make His plan work. I told God, if this is part of your plan, I would choose to go back. But if I go back, can you heal my spine? Not for me, but for my son. So he wouldn't have to take care of me? It's bad enough that his father is gone. God agreed and reminded me that the knowledge I had gained here would not be retained because humans would not understand it. After saying this, God brought me back to my body. It was almost an instant compared to the journey to heaven with the angels. I was back in my body. He was about to leave when I realized that He had not fixed my spine. I said, "Wait. What about my spine?" Then God put His hand on my back. Everything was back in place. I felt the warmth of my hand. God was ready to leave and I noticed that my spine still hadn't fully recovered. I said, "I still feel a little off in my spine." God said, "This scar is to always remind you that the consequences of taking risks need to be borne by yourself." Then God went back to heaven. I opened my eyes and saw the sunlight and I took a deep breath. I had wounds in many places on my body, most importantly my spine, and I felt a lot of pain. He helped me up and I couldn't hold my head upright. Soon the ambulance came and I was taken to the hospital. The doctor asked me some questions, some I answered and some I couldn't. They called my parents and they arrived at the hospital soon after. Nothing too serious was found after the examination. The wound was simply treated and then we went home.